You know something is wrong when even the wind forgets your name. That's how the people of Kikera Market Town described a young woman who once came from far away, dreaming of success. Her name was Imade, and though she arrived with hope in her eyes and magic in her fingers, the town would soon forget her, or try to. But let's begin at the beginning. Imade came from Ojude, a quiet village surrounded by wide rivers, sleepy goats, and old people who told stories with their wrinkles. Life there was slow and simple. People rose with the sun and slept when the moon came out. There was only one road, one small school, and one stubborn rooster that crowed at the wrong time. But even in that peaceful place, Imade felt something stir inside her. She wanted more. She dreamed of color, sound, movement, a life filled with purpose. And so, with her mother's prayers and her grandmother's wooden comb, she left Ojude and made her way to Kekere, a busy, noisy, and bold market town where everyone was chasing something. Kekere was alive. The streets smelled of pepper soup and burning coal. Men shouted prices. Women balanced baskets on their heads like dancers. Drums played from somewhere you could never quite find. The town never slept. It only blinked. Imade arrived with nothing but her bag, her skill, and a dream. She had trained herself in hair braiding since she was a little girl, using dried grass and broken dolls. Her fingers were gentle but precise. She could part hair like river paths, twist like vines, and decorate like a festival. She thought that would be enough. After settling into a one-room home behind a tailor's shop, she spent the first few weeks walking around, observing. She studied people, watched how money moved, watched how women came into town from nearby places like Omoko, Igidi, and Abala just to fix their hair. And that's when she saw it. Hairdressing in Kekere wasn't just a service, it was survival. Women came for weddings, funerals, church, birthdays, or just to feel pretty. Braiding hair was more than beauty. It was identity, pride, even healing. Imade smiled. "This is it," she whispered to herself one morning, standing in the heart of the market, the sun rising behind her. She found a small wooden shop at the edge of the market, not too far from the roadside, not too close to the meat sellers. It had a broken chair and a faded mirror, but it had a roof and 4 walls. She painted the outside with her own hands, bright blue with yellow stars. She hung a small sign, Imade's Magic Fingers. At first people were curious. "Ah, the new girl from Ojude. Shide Trio, see the neat parting." But it didn't last. Imade had one problem, a big one. She was slow, not lazy, never that. She was a perfectionist. Every braid had to be even. Every line had to be straight. She tied and tied again if a strand looked wrong. She wasn't just doing hair. She was doing art. But people in Kekere didn't want art, they wanted speed. Women would sit in her chair smiling, only to frown 2 hours later. This is just half of my head? Others would joke loudly, "If you're going to Imade's place, carry breakfast, lunch, and a mat." They laughed. Some stopped. Coming. One woman actually brought a pillow and said, "I'm ready for the night shift." Imade smiled through it, but her heart was slowly breaking. Each day she opened her shop. Each day she watched customers walk past her door and enter. Fast as salons, one stylist could do 5 heads in a day. Imade, sometimes just 1. And even though her work was flawless, her money wasn't. Rent was due. Her stomach growled more often than customers did. She sat alone more days than she worked. The mirror in front of her no longer showed hope, only worry. And then one afternoon the phone rang. It was a voice from her past. "Imade. Ah, my sister. It's me, Tari. You remember me from school?" Imade sat up. "Tari, of course. How are you?" "I'm good, oh. But tell me, how's your salon?" Imade sighed. "I don't know, my sister. It's hard. They say I'm too slow. I try, but customers don't wait anymore. Some even mock me." Tari was quiet for a moment. Then her voice changed. "Imade, do you think all these women are using only their hands?" Imade blinked. "What do you mean?" "In this kind of market, being good is not enough. You need something else, something stronger, an edge." Imad sat still, heart pounding. Tari said softly, "Don't worry. I'll call you back soon." "Just think about what I said." That night Imadi couldn't sleep. Were other stylists using charms? She had heard whispers. Some tied black threads on their fingers, others muttered into oils. She had always ignored it, trusted her craft. But what if... 2 days later, Tari called again. "If you want to win, travel to Obu Forest. I'll meet you there. There's someone who can help." "Help how?" Imade whispered. "If you truly want to succeed, you must be willing to do what others fear." Imade's heart raced. She didn't want dark things. But hunger was louder than fear, and shame was heavier than doubt. So she packed a small bag, took her comb, her scarf, and her name. She boarded a creaky bus as the sun rose. The road to Obu was long and full of dust. Trees lined both sides like guards. Birds flew overhead. Villagers waved lazily as they passed. When she arrived, Tari was waiting. "Today is the first day of your real life," Tari said, her smile wide and strange. They walked past markets, past children playing, past farms, into silence. The road narrowed. The wind slowed. Soon they entered the forest, thick, dark, alive. "Where are we going?" Imade asked, voice shaking. "To meet Mama Yamoja," Tari whispered. Imad stopped. She had heard the name. A woman who lived where paths disappeared. A woman who could give you gifts, but always asked for something back. They arrived at a small clay hut covered in red beads and feathers. Smoke rose from inside. It smelled like bitter leaves and fire. Tari knocked 3 times. A voice like thunder whispered, "Enter." Inside, the room was dim. Candles burned blue. In the corner, a woman sat stirring a black pot. Her eyes were white like salt, her skin wrinkled like dried yam. She looked at Imadi and smiled. "You want your hands to fly, don't you?" Imad couldn't speak. The woman stood and reached into a box. She pulled out a small doll, carved from ebony wood. Its eyes were empty, its fingers long. "This," she said, "is Ejika, spirit of speed and beauty. Touch your customer's head and they will sleep. While they dream, Ejika will braid. You will only need to guide. She will do the rest." Imade's mouth opened. "That's all?" The old woman's smile faded. "Nothing is free," she said. "Every month at midnight, drop 1 strand of hair from a customer into the gourd. Forget, and the spirit will collect her payment in another way." Imade swallowed hard. She thought of her debts, her hunger, her dream. She nodded. "I will do it." And so, the deal was made. When Imade left the forest that day, the birds in the trees refused to sing. She didn't notice. The sky above her was the same, blue, wide, and full of watching eyes. But her heart, her thoughts, and her fingers were different now. She had agreed to something she couldn't explain, something she didn't fully understand. But her chest was light and full of something that felt like joy, or maybe power. The strange old woman in the hut had given her a carved figure made of dark wood. Its hollow eyes, thin fingers, and spirit name Ejika now lived in her bag. Imade didn't ask too many questions. She didn't want to ruin the magic with fear. As she traveled back to Kikir, she sat in the bus, the figurine wrapped tightly in her cloth. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from excitement. "This is it," she whispered. "My time has come." When she stepped back into town, the noise welcomed her as if nothing had changed. But Imade had changed. No longer did she walk with her head low. No longer did she pretend not to hear the market women mocking her slowness. This time, her back was straight, her chin high. She was ready. But she didn't open her salon immediately. No. First, she made it new. She hired 2 young boys to repaint the wooden walls, this time in deep purple and gold. She replaced her dusty, cracked mirror with a large, shining one that showed your whole face in detail, every curl, every flaw. She brought in cushions sewn from fine Ankara cloth. She bought incense from the herbal woman at the end of the road and burned it every morning so her shop would smell of mint and mystery. The biggest change was the door. She replaced the old wooden door with a clear glass one, but not just any glass. This one was special. From the inside she could see everyone walking by, but from the outside no one could see in. It was like a one-way mirror, a secret. Above the door she hung a brand-new wooden sign, carved and painted in bold red letters. Imade's Nest of Beauty Fast, Flawless, Fearless. Then she made her announcement. Special offer. First 10 customers get a discount. Come and see the new Imade. The town stirred. People whispered. Didn't she used to take all day to do one person's hair? Ah, what's this sudden boldness? Some were curious. Some were suspicious. But people love new things. And people love cheap things even more. Soon her first customer arrived. She was a young lady named Lami, who sold mangoes at the edge of the market. Her hair was thick, long and stubborn, the kind that gave other stylists a headache. Still, she stepped into the salon and sat on the bright stool. Imade greeted her with a wide smile. Welcome, my sister. What style would you like today? Ah, just simple cornrows. But you know my hair ain't, it usually takes time. Imade smiled again, this time differently. No worry, you'll be done before the next bell rings. She stood behind Lami, placed her palm gently on her head, and whispered softly, almost like a prayer. The moment her skin touched Lami's scalp, the girl's eyes closed. Not slowly, not softly. They dropped like stones into water. She slumped forward slightly, breathing deeply, mouth half open. Imade froze for a second. It worked. Then she moved her fingers gently, not doing much, just guiding. That was all Ejika needed. Suddenly, from nowhere, invisible hands appeared, silent, swift, weaving like wind. They moved so fast they blurred. They twisted Lami's hair with perfection, accuracy and speed that no human could achieve. Imade just watched. Within minutes, yes, minutes, the style was done. Clean lines, tight braids, glossy sheen. She tapped Lami's shoulder. The girl stretched like someone waking from a nap on a beach. Ah, I slept? She looked in the mirror and gasped. You're done? Already? She stood up, turning, her head left and right. This is beautiful, and I feel fresh like I just bathed in a stream. Imade smiled again. That's how we do it now. And just like that, everything changed. Word spread like fire in dry grass. One customer became 2, 2 became 10, 10 became too many to count. But Imade had rules now. Only one person was allowed inside at a time. The rest would wait outside, sitting on the small bench or standing in line. People found it strange, but no one complained. Inside the salon, Imade worked, or pretended to. All she needed to do was touch a head. The spirit did the rest. The customer would fall into a deep, dreamless sleep, and the hair would be done. In minutes, no matter the complexity. Even the most difficult styles, micro-twists, fishbone braids, spiral cornrows, were completed in record time. And they were always flawless. Soon women traveled from outside Kekere, from Obale, Runta, and even Ijona, just to sit in her chair. Some came for the hair, but some came for the sleep. I don't know what it is, said one woman, but the moment she touches my head, I forget my troubles. It's like magic, said another. I wake up and everything feels better. And then one day a woman left Imade's salon with the longest, tiniest, most perfect braids anyone had ever seen, in 1 hour. It was unheard of. 1 hour for what should have taken a full day. The whole town buzzed. Imade is not a stylist, she's a miracle. Someone called the newspaper. Her salon was now the most expensive in Kekere, and still people waited for hours just for a chance. She wore fine clothes, her cheeks were fuller, her laugh louder. But not everyone was smiling. Other hairdressers in the market were suffering. Before they had long waiting lines. Now, their chairs were empty. Customers would cancel appointments and say, "Sorry, I'll wait for Imade." A group of them gathered one night in a small back room behind Auntie Teka's sewing stall. "This thing is not normal," said one woman. "How can one person braid so fast?" asked another. "And why do all her customers sleep?" They all turned to the oldest stylist in the market, Mama Ireti. Her hands had braided generations. She spoke slowly. "In my 30 years of plaiting hair, I have seen many things, but this one smells of spirits." Silence filled the room. "Then what do we do?" asked a younger stylist named Queso. "We watch her," Mama Ireti said, eyes dark. "We find her truth." The next day they sent someone. A young girl named Kudi volunteered. She was told to go to Imade's salon, pretend to be a customer and fight the sleep. "Pinch yourself, chew pepper, recite the alphabet, just don't sleep." Kudi agreed. She walked in and smiled at Imade. "I want medium braids, please." Imade welcomed her as usual, calm, warm. She placed her hands on Kudi's head. Kudi began to feel dizzy. She bit her tongue. She whispered songs in her head. She scratched her arm, but it was no use. She slept. When she woke up, the hair was done. Beautiful, neat, perfect. She ran back to the group and said, "I tried. I swear I tried. But the moment she touched my head, I was gone." The stylists looked at each other. This wasn't ordinary, so they tried again. This time they sent Ralia, a woman with sharper eyes and a hidden camera in her handbag. She sat in Imade's chair like every other customer. "Long braids, please," she said. Imade nodded. As expected, Ralia fell asleep within seconds. Later that night, the group gathered around a small screen to watch the footage. But what they saw didn't make sense. The video looked like it had skipped or been sped up. One moment, Ralia's head was untouched. The next, it was braided. Fast, unnatural, blurry. "How?" someone whispered. Even the camera couldn't catch it, but there was no clear proof, no spirit, no shadows, just mystery and fear. They decided to leave her alone, let the girl fly. Maybe she'd fall, on her own. Meanwhile, Imade continued. Month after month, she never missed the ritual. Every full moon, she placed a single strand of her customer's hair into a small calabash beneath her bed, just as Mama Yamoja had instructed. She whispered the name. She thanked Ejika, and the spirit kept its side of the deal. Her hands moved slowly, but her life moved fast. She was no longer the slow girl from Ojud. She was Imade the unbeatable. They say the spirits are patient. They wait, not with smiles, not with mercy, but with eyes closed and hands folded, until the debt you promised is forgotten. And when it is, they come, not with fire, not with thunder, but with silence. And silence is the loudest curse of all. It had been 3 months since Imade made her deal with Ejika, the spirit of braiding speed and beauty. 3 full moons had passed, and each one she had obeyed. She dropped a single strand of her customer's hair into the little gourd, whispered her thanks, and slept like a queen under golden dreams. But on the 4th month, something changed. Imade had become rich. Not the kind of rich where you count coins, but the kind where people beg for your time. She had new clothes, soft as feathers. Her skin glowed like morning dew. She was the envy of Kekere. Women gossiped, men stared, children whispered songs with her name in them. She had thrown a small party the previous weekend. Music, food, and gifts. She danced until her bones ached. People laughed and called her Queen of Hair. And in all the celebration, she forgot. She forgot the ritual. She forgot Ejika. She forgot the gourd, the strand, the midnight promise. The moon rose that night like a silent eye in the sky. It watched. It waited. Imade slept, drunk on joy. But the spirits were already awake. That night, her dream turned black. She found herself inside her salon, but it was not the same. The walls were breathing, the mirror was cracked and bleeding. The lights were gone. Shadows clung to the ceiling like bats. She couldn't move. The only sound was the hiss of hair being braided. Fast, too fast, faster than any human should move. Invisible hands were weaving, twisting, snapping, tugging, and they weren't braiding hair anymore. They were braiding air, smoke, her name. Then a voice soft and sharp like broken glass whispered, "You did not pay us." She woke up with a scream in her throat and sweat soaking her chest. Her bedsheet was twisted around her legs like rope. She stumbled to the corner of the room, to where the calabash was always kept. It was gone, not moved, not broken, just gone. The space was empty and cold. The debt had not been paid, and the spirits had taken notice. The next day, Imade tried to smile. She powdered her face, wore her finest wrapper, sat in her salon like nothing had happened. Her first customer. That morning was a woman named Temi, a new face in town, full of laughter and chatter. She wanted simple braids. Imad's hands trembled as she reached for her head. The spirit responded as usual. Temi's eyes rolled back. She dropped into deep sleep. The invisible hands appeared. They worked fast, just like always. But this time, something was off. When the braids were finished, Temi didn't wake up. Imade blinked. She tapped her gently. Nothing. She shook her. Still nothing. Panic punched her chest. She leaned close to feel Temi's breath. It was there. Faint. But her body was stiff, her hands cold. "Wake up," Imade whispered. "Please wake up." No response. Fear gripped her throat. She nearly urinated on herself. What had she done? What had Ejika done? She locked the salon door, closed the curtains, sat on the floor beside the motionless body, heart pounding like a drum in a storm. After 2 full hours, Temi suddenly jerked, upright with a gasp. Her eyes were wide, wild, empty. Where was I?" she whispered. Imade forced a shaky smile. "You were just sleeping. You're done. Look, your hair is beautiful." Temi shook her head slowly. "No, I wasn't sleeping. I was somewhere. A place with no walls. Voices were whispering, pulling my hair, calling my name." She stood up fast, like her body was still running from something. Without paying, without thanking, she stormed out of the shop, barefoot. Imade sank into the chair, shaking. That night she didn't light her incense. She sat in the dark, staring at her hands. She whispered to herself, "It was just a mistake. Maybe she was tired, that's all." But her heart knew better. The next day another woman came in. She was tall, calm, and wore a green scarf over her head. She asked for long, tiny braids, the kind that usually took hours. Imad hesitated. The woman looked into her eyes and smiled faintly. "Is something wrong?" Imad faked a laugh. "No, not at all." She touched the woman's head. The spirit came. The hands moved. The hair twisted. But halfway through the braiding, something terrible happened. The woman's eyes flew open, white, completely white. No pupils, no movement. Imade jumped back. Her mouth opened to scream, but no sound came. The woman stood, her head tilted at a broken angle, unnatural, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. And when she spoke, the voice was not hers. "You took our gift." Imad fell to her knees. "Please, I will pay. I forgot, but I will fix it." "How you enjoyed the gift, but you ignored the cost." The spirit-controlled body walked to the door. As she touched the glass, it cracked, spiderweb lines dancing across the surface. "We will take what you refuse to give." Then the woman walked out barefoot, disappearing into the night. Imade didn't follow. She curled on the floor, crying. She no longer knew what was real. Was that a customer, or the spirit in disguise? Did it matter? They had come, and they were not finished. That night she could not sleep. The whispers returned. "You forgot to pay. You promised. You think wealth comes free." She screamed into her pillow. In the morning she lied, told waiting customers she was sick, told her neighbor she needed rest. But the voices followed her. Even when her shop was empty, she would hear them. Whispers in the mirror, hands brushing her shoulder, invisible feet walking behind her. She heard her name in the wind. She stopped accepting clients. She stopped combing her hair. She stopped eating. The calabash was still gone, permanently taken. The deal was broken. And the spirit now hunted in silence. One night, the dream returned. But this time, she wasn't in her salon. She was in a dark room, her childhood home, but everything was warped. Her mother's face was blurred. The walls moved like cloth, and the braiding began again. But it wasn't on someone else's head this time. It was on her own. Hands, hundreds keys, were pulling, tugging, twisting her hair in pain. Her scalp burned. Her neck snapped back. She screamed herself awake, and that's when it happened. The ground beneath her shook, just slightly, like the breath of a giant. She jumped up, but her legs wouldn't move. They had frozen. A cold wind curled around her body. Then She felt them. Invisible hands grabbed her wrists, not gently. Rough, angry, cold like river stones. She struggled, kicking, twisting, but she was locked in place. Then the voice came again. "Your hands. You no longer need them." She screamed as pain shot through her fingers. She looked down. Her hands were turning black, burning, crumbling. The skin cracked like dry leaves. The bones inside twisted, curled, vanished. Her fingers shrank until they were no more. She collapsed, sobbing, begging. But it was over. By morning she was gone. No one saw her leave. No one heard a door open. But her shop was closed. The one-way mirror door was shattered into 1,000 tiny teeth. Some said she had run mad, that she had been seen walking barefoot at dawn, whispering to herself, face scratched, hair undone. Others swore they saw shadows moving inside her locked salon, shadows that didn't belong to humans. One woman claimed that, late one night, she walked past the shop and heard it. The sound of braiding, not slow, fast, so fast it echoed through the glass. But the shop was empty. No one dared go in. No one touched the door. The stylists who once feared her were now relieved. Balance had returned. There was no longer a queen. No unbeatable hands, no spirit-fueled magic, only empty chairs and lessons learned. And the market women prayed quietly that such darkness never returned. In life, shortcuts often come with hidden costs. True success takes patience, discipline, and honesty. When we try to outsmart the natural order, we may get what we want, but the price may be more than we can afford. Always remember, every gift comes with a responsibility. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who loves African tales, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next powerful story. And in the comments, tell me, would you ever take a shortcut if it promised success overnight?